We're going to do some fraction work in this video, and the first thing that we're going to do is reduce each fraction to lowest terms. Now remembering, when you reduce fractions, you are looking for something that will divide evenly into the numerator and the denominator. So when we look at this first one, number 1, 10 over 14, I always try to do whatever you see. If you see something that's easy, go with it. Don't think about what's the biggest thing. Just think about what works. So 10 and 14 are both even, which means 2 is going to divide evenly into the top and the bottom. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 14 divided by 2 is 7. Now 5 and 7, nothing goes into those, so I'm now done. So you always want to kind of go with what's easiest. In number 2, 75 and 100. Right here I think of cents, right? 100 cents is $1, 75 cents. I then think of, hey, I can take out a quarter out of each of those, or 25. 75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. If you didn't see 25 right away, 75 ends in 5, 100 ends in 0. If something ends in 5 or 0, it's divisible by 5. So you could have also started with 5 and worked from there. Number 3, 36 over 60. Now there might be a couple different ways that you can see this. If you say, hey, they're even, yes they are. So let's start by dividing by 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 60 divided by 2 is 30. Well, those are both even, so I can divide by 2 again, and I get 9 over 15. Well, those are both divisible by 3, and I finally get 3/5. So there's a couple, you could have started by dividing by 6, 3, 12. Any of those would get you to the same place. Just sometimes you might have to do the problem, divide 3 times. In number 4, I have 8 and 64. Well, I see quickly, I know that 8 goes into 64. So I can divide the top and the bottom by 8. In the numerator, 8 divided by 8 is 1. 64 divided by 8 is 8. So that reduces to 1/8. In number 5, I have 150 over 250. Now, if you have two numbers that end in 0, dividing by 10 will automatically make the zeros go away. So I'm really dealing with 15 over 25 after I cross off the zeros. I can divide each by 5, and I end up with 3/5. Number 6, 11 over 21. Well, 11, if we think about the factors, is 1 times 11. 21 is 1 times 21 and 3 times 7. They share nothing, and therefore to reduce, it stays the same, just 11 over 21. Number 7, 17 over 68. Now with 17, you're like, well, 17 is 1 times 17, and that's it. So if you say, okay, well, what is 68 divided by 17? Does that come out nicely? And the answer is yes. So if I divide top and bottom by 17, I end up with 1/4. So you always kind of want to go with the littlest number. What goes into the smallest number? Use that to kind of see if it fits into the biggest one. In number 8, again with the zeros. Each 0 can cancel out with one of the zeros, and I'm left with 10 over 15. We can divide 10 and 15 by 5, and I end up with a fraction reduced to 2/3. All right, now we're going to convert each fraction to an equivalent decimal. Now, when you're changing to decimal, you got to think of this fraction bar as a division sign. So you would take 16 divided by 25, and your calculator is going to spit out 0.64. Now, in this case, we don't have to round. It comes out nicely, and there's our answer. And number 2, we would take 106 divided by 50, and that would give us an answer of 2.12. Again, we don't have to round. It comes out nicely to 2 decimal places, which is the hundredths. In number 3, when I take 85 divided by 99, that gives me 0.858. Well, nearest hundredth is here, so I look at 8. 8 tells me to round up, so that's 0.86 for a final rounding. In number 4, I'm going to take 54 divided by 8, and that gives me 6.75. Comes out nicely, and I'm finished. Number 5, I start by taking 568 divided by 600, and that's going to give me a 0.946. Well, I'm going to the hundredths place. 6 rounds up, so I end up with 0.95. Now, in number 6, I have 30,000 over 5.2 million. And because these labels are different, I can't just cancel them out. But when I think of 1,000, I think 3. So I'm going to take 30,000. I'm going to add 3 zeros. When I think of million, I think 6. So I'm going to go 6 decimal places to the right. So that 2 is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I add the rest as zeros, right? 6 decimal places. So now I can play the cancel off zero games. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. I'm left with 3 over 520. Or you could have just divided them. You get the same answer. We'll end up with 0.005. Now remember, the directions said round to the nearest hundredths. 5 rounds up, so I would end up with 0.01 for that answer. In number 7, now I have million on the top and thousand on the bottom. Well, million, again, is 6 decimal places, so the 6 would be the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the denominator, 1,000 is 3, so 1, 2, I would add a third 0, so 25, 350. And if you divide these, now you could cross out a 0 if you wanted first, or you just divide either way. You get 615.384. We're looking to the nearest hundredth, 4 rounds down, so just 615.38. And the last one for this video, 4 million over 0.8 billion. Well, million is 6, so here's my decimal. I go 6 places, so that will be 6 zeros. Now, billion is 9, so here's the first spot. I'm going to have 8 zeros then, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is a lot of numbers. I want to try to not screw this up in my calculator, so I would go ahead and cross out 6 zeros, and I would end up with 4 over 800, which is 0.005. We've had this, type of problem before. And when I divide the 5 rounds up, and I end up with 0.01. And there is some fraction work.